OBBB.
Sam, what does that stand for?
One big, beautiful bill.
Indeed.
We're going to talk about the new reconciliation bill or budget that passed and signed by the president now, which has a incredible and far-reaching impact, I think, on both immigrant and non-immigrant and undocumented, mostly, I think, life here in this country. The Immigration Customs Enforcement, congratulations, you guys, will be 12 times bigger in size under this bill. Yes, if it's size 1 today, it will be size 12 and a half in dollars. Its budget was approximately $10 billion. It's going to be over 100. I think less than $10 billion. It's going to be over $100 billion. Additional 10,000 enforcement officers going to be roaming the country. Money to pay states to enforce immigration law. And increase of fees for humanitarian visas, such as asylum, etc., and other controversial provisions dealing with children. We're probably not going to go there today. And we are basically law firms that deal with legal immigration. That's the practice that we do.
Yep.
I'm Sam Shihab with the law firm of Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke from Shihab Burke here in Dublin, Ohio, 6 o'clock p.m. on a Monday, as we always are.
Yes, Eastern time.
Yep.
And there will be a direct impact on our clientele, on you, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Brian, so this is huge, a lot of money, and obviously it all started with, well, it didn't start, maybe ended with a broken border in this on the southern border, and probably lack of meaningful cooperation from our neighbors to the south.
Yeah.
And people get tired of it. Understandably, I think if you talk to anybody, I don't care about your politics, I don't care about your opinion. One thing everybody would agree to is what we have in the southern border is a problem, a big problem.
As a bunch of immigration attorneys, we have to sit here and think about, the law. We want the law to be enforced well in our good family cases and our good, employment cases. And if we had to think about the southern border where, it's a crime to cross that border without authorization, and we have to want the immigration laws to be enforced all around, so we have a good, fair, and honest system around here, is the bottom line.
Yeah. So I think the news is full of the provisions.
Yeah.
If we're going to give people here anything of meaningful, I think we need to jump, Brian, and talk about how do you think is going to impact the legal immigrants here in the U.S., both green card holders, probably potentially U.S. citizen, naturalized U.S. citizen, and potentially also non-immigrant students, B visa, etc.
Everybody.
I think
you've just listed essentially everybody.
Legal immigrants. Yeah. So that's basically, the inside. We want to give an insight. Talk about what's in that bill. Everybody can go tune into any radio station or TV or podcast and talk about the billions of dollars. And the number of judges that they are going to add, another 100 judges, another, $45 billion in detention center. How is it going to impact legal immigrants?
Well, I'm going to start with the sort of softball. Some new fees. There's tons of new fees in this bill, but a lot of them don't apply to somebody who we consider a purely legal immigrant. Somebody who's coming here, from abroad via family or from abroad via employment immigration, or maybe changing from F to H, that sort of person. But there's a couple of them. The big things I want to hit on are new non-immigrant visa fees at the consulates, $250 per person. I think they call it an integrity fee.
Is that refundable?
No, sir. To my recollection, no.
I think it is refundable.
Oh, well, I will be happy to be proven wrong on that one.
To be reimbursed after visa expiration.
If holder can prove a record of compliance. Okay. Yeah.
Well, but it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
But you know, yeah.
Well, that's something. These are authorized, as I recall, to go into effect right now. I mean, under the law, it is. So basically, for new non-immigrant visa applications, budget more. And if you are coming on employment-based immigration to the United States and you have a couple family members, that does add up. You know, you're looking, you know, $250 per person. Do the math. You know, average family, you know, maybe $1,000 more. Mom, dad, 2 kids. Another one on the list is an I-94 fee. A fee for issuance of an I-94, which is initially set at $24. You know, this is new law, new fees. They don't charge a fee for an I-94 right now, to the best of my recollection and knowledge.
I'm curious to no, there's no fee.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they're going to administer that.
We were talking about that. I forget who I was talking with in the office here, but you know, it seems like they're not going to want to put you know, a credit card reader at the point of entry. It seems realistic that they might upgrade the online system to basically, you know, grabbing your I-94 for this first time to pay a processing fee.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes.
You know, the UK just implemented a similar like a visa, and you have to pay $10 with an app.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that doesn't really.
It's a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, these things are sort of, I guess, a cost of doing business for them, and that doesn't really, you know,
Okay, so
surprise
cost,
me too much.
we got it.
Yeah.
Now, what else?
So
I think enforcement.
Yeah.
I think enforcement, and the problem I think is, you earlier said that these transition is not going to like tomorrow is going to happen.
Sure.
10,000 officers, that's a lot of people.
10,000 new. So I don't think we ever explicitly said it, but this bill provides, I think it's some tens of millions of dollars for funding of new ICE officers to the degree of 10,000 over the next 5 years. And
That's going to take some time.
yeah, I mean, this is what they have to do. They have to go through a federal hiring process. Presuming soon you're going to start seeing those, you know, usajobs.com, I think is the website, you know, postings out there for ICE, but it takes, people have to apply, they have to interview them, they have to hire them, they have to train them. And that's sort of that. That's something that obviously, per the people we're dealing with, the administration we're dealing with, they're going to try to move that process as fast as they can because they are known for trying to do things quickly. But like you said, not going to be overnight. Don't expect to see, you know, an ICE guy on every street corner by tomorrow.
And there's money also for states to enforce immigration law.
Yeah.
And that, so you're going to have police officers who have to be trained, and those guys are not going to be as well, you know, trained as immigration officers.
Yeah, I'll elaborate further. There's programs available right now, which are basically that say, hey, local police, like, you know, your city police, your county police, why not get on board with us and help us enforce the immigration laws? And they can basically sign up for this program and get training to do this. Okay, yeah, that's out there, meaning realistically, historically, if you get pulled over for a speeding ticket, you know, you're not going to typically hear anything about immigration status in the United States. But if more police agencies get involved in that, that's really the challenge you have.
So I used to think that it's ridiculous to carry your green card with you all the time, but I think now you must carry your green card to show your status.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And if you are a U.S. citizen, what do you carry? You're not required to carry anything, as a matter of fact, by law.
Yeah, but okay, you know, Sam, I sound like I come from.
No, they've deported U.S. citizens.
Yeah, I sound like I come from the East Coast.
Maybe you're Canadian, bro.
Maybe I am Canadian. Well, no, realistic. But you've asked a good question, and I'm just.
Yeah, well, the law, you're not required to have any document, but
if you're a U.S. citizen, but how do you? Yeah. If they start poking you, saying you know, what's your status here? I'm a U.S. citizen. I don't believe you. What is your response to something like that?
I mean, there is a chance, obviously, especially if you live in a predominantly ethnic area and so forth, that you might want to carry present. The most convenient card I see, and it's not required by law, is the Canadian crossing card. When you apply for a passport for like another $20, you can get a card you can put in your wallet. Yeah. It's a passport. Now, non-immigrants, what do they have to carry?
Their passport and their I-94.
Their passports. You got to carry. I mean, this is where, for me, I mean, that's the law. You got to carry your passport with you. You're going grocery shopping at 10 o'clock at night.
Passport I-94.
You got to carry your passport and your I-94. You're going to a stadium to watch a football game where people get rowdy and crazy.
Yeah.
You got to carry your passport.
You got to worry about some guy spilling beer on your passport and I-94. I want to clarify, this is not a change in the law. This has always been the law, but basically the odds of somebody getting asked about these things in the past was nil. Short of, you walking up to some ICE officials and going, hey guys, guess what? I'm undocumented, or you get the point. It was not a realistic question to ask. And that's sort of on our menu for the future. It's more likely that you're going to be stopped and detained if there's more police, if there's more ICE asked about these things.
So this president have 3.5 years left.
Yep.
In his tenure. There are opportunities. So there's another election and a new president. Now, if Trump is elected again, there's a big debate on that. We're not going to go there. You're laughing.
You just diffused a big debate.
Then that will continue if we have a new president. And it's probably have a different opinion, the country can take a different turn.
Oh yeah. Again, as an aside, even before then, there's a midterm election. Another election for the House and Senate.
But the bill has passed.
Oh, this bill has passed. Yeah. This bill
has passed. But the other, I don't know what can they do, but he spends the money. The president spends the money.
Yeah, he's got this money. This money is in his hands to do with whatever the law allows him to do.
Yeah. But things can change. But right now, there's money for the wall, which was promised to be paid by Mexico. Now you're paying for it. Congratulations, Brian. You're paying for it.
I'm not paying for it. I'm going to send a polite letter to my congressman and say I don't want to pay for that.
Yeah. You're paying for it. It's in the bill now. It's official.
Yeah.
Building $45 billion worth of detention centers. And this country's face is changing a little bit because of, honestly, the border. And honestly, the border issue really has gone way out of hand. And I don't know a better way of fixing it. I have to be very honest. Us in the sphere of legal immigration, with all due respect to everybody who wants to come to this country, I have no opinion other than my professional opinion, obviously, as I'm practicing law here. We're impacted, and be prepared for that, I think, is the message.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to hit the numbers again. It's, 10,000 new officers at ICE over 5 years, more money for, cooperation with state officials, and you said $45 billion in terms of new detention. Those things aren't for nothing. They're going to be doing something with those, and, expect interesting times ahead.
1,250% increase in ICE budget.
Yeah.
12.5 times increase.
Yeah.
With that, let's move on and see if we can take questions. So there was a gentleman that was saying that he has sent us a question and we were not able to answer it. And I'm trying to remember the question, but hopefully I emailed him back and I said drop it in immigrationquestions.us.
Well, I shall check out immigrationquestions.us.
But once you give me the first one here, let me address
in the chat live right now.
So as we move here and team up on this. Saif Khan. Hi, my I-485 is pending since January 25 and my biometrics were completed on March 11, 25. My EED is also approved. Today, I got notice about I-45J to attend for biometric again. Is this normal processing? Well, January, July, I mean, it's not abnormal. It's not something that worries me too much. It's not the kind of scenario that bothers me too much, to be honest with you. Asking for another supplement J and a fingerprinting, maybe your first biometrics did not register or they could not collect good data on it. So I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, these seem to be benign things, not a complicated. I mean, if they want another eye supplement J and they want your biometrics one more time, that's great news because you don't have any other problem. So that's good stuff in terms of moving the case forward. So I just comply and not trying to argue with them. That would be my opinion.
Yeah. You have no other option to.
There's no concern. There's no real concern. Substantive concern.
Well, I'll play the devil's advocate. I don't know of anything, but consider those scenarios where people have gotten requests for biometrics on I-129s or I-140s, and those have been, to the best of our knowledge, somebody who has some sort of criminal matter in their background. I haven't heard anything about that from Saif Khan here.
Yeah, but they have the biometrics already. They're trying to collect it a second time. They have the information.
Again, sometimes they goof them up too. So yeah. I'm not really worried about that.
Exactly. None of those things tell me you got a problem.
Yeah, because that was ultimately the question is, is there should be something abnormal there. Yeah. So I'm going to hit that up the questions from immigration.
You got to take that one first off.
Oh, yes. Well, it should, I believe. There you go.
Nice.
This is one from immigrationquestions.us. Somebody who tuned in to our presentation last Wednesday, and you should consider tuning into immigrationquestions.us because it's our portal where you can send questions during the week and we will answer them here live. And this is one from there. But a good question is, if your citizenship is revoked, will you have time to withdraw from your 401k, sell assets, or will you be deported immediately?
So there is no such thing as a revoking citizenship. There is a process, and there is a multi-year process. So we've talked about going through the stages, and then there's a complaint filed in court. You have 28 days to answer. You can file for an extension if you don't have an attorney. And then there is a court date set up, typically a year out. There's a jury trial, and there's discovery. So you have plenty of time, my friend, to make arrangements or win this thing, because the burden of proof is on the government. And if you don't have anything to worry about, I think you'll win. But if you have an issue, yes, you will have time.
Well, I want to maybe ask you a question. The paranoia is that you've heard sort of intermittent stories of, U.S. citizen gets deported. Isn't that seems to maybe be what this person's concern is. What if they get it wrong and just kick your butt out of the United States, even though you're a United States citizen?
We can answer things within the law.
Yeah.
We don't answer things. I mean, if we become a state that does not respect the law, then I think you and I need to find different jobs.
Yeah, that's what our job's about. We're about basically telling you what the law, what might happen under the law. And I think your answer to my question is fair.
However, there is clear documentation of infinite number. Well, not infinite. Significant number of removal of U.S. citizens out of this country throughout American history,
sure.
Starting during the economic depression into today. Yeah. So it happens, and that's why investing that $15, $20 to get that Canadian border crossing card, which says on that passport, and put it in your wallet, that might make your life easier.
The scenario I brought up, it's the what if, can I imagine if it happened to me? The bottom line is there's still a court case over that. If you're a U.S. citizen, you find yourself outside the country, and they say, no, we're not giving you a passport. You're not coming back.
Yeah. So let's go on immigrationquestions.us and see if there's anything there.
No, that was the only
that one that we picked up. Okay. Yeah. So let's go ahead.
You hit up our live ones here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Brian, go take it.
Sure. We applied for MTR erroneous, and I love for 85 days, they send RFE. Does that mean the application and you don't have to worry about the 180-day deadline? Only the main applicant's online status updated. So I'll have to sort of fill in some facts here.
So this is interesting. Mm-hmm. But typically, you get a reinstatement or something to send you an RFE. That means that the case has been accepted. The case is pending.
Yeah.
It's no longer denied.
Yeah, you don't always get a reinstatement, but this one I have to agree with you. If they are on your case, if your case is getting RFEs, cases that are denied don't get RFEs. They're denied. Is the bottom line. Yeah.
So. Well, this is a scenario in which I will tell, if I'm consulting with somebody, I need all the documents to read. Yeah. You give me everything to read so I can give you an answer that is fitting, because I think there's a lot of holes in here that you and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing. Ronnie and I suspect you're represented by counsel on this, and that's the person who has sort of all the information.
They have to help you figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
It's your case, so you're entitled. Your attorney. I mean, I can tell you one thing: you are in an adjustment application, even though the attorney could be paid for and has a relationship with your employer, perhaps. I'm guessing. You are the client in an adjustment application, and the attorney has an obligation, an ethical obligation to you, on this case, not to your employer, to give you the information you need so you understand your case and you're informed about your case so you can make decisions and understand what's going on. Now, Runyon could have that, and he's just curious here online. Because he wants to get more information. But if you're not getting that, the attorney is not doing his or her ethical duty to you to inform you, and you need to demand that. That would be my advice to Runyon, honestly. And if you are, then listen to them because they're giving you the information because they have the file better than us. Because we're guessing here, and this question here let me know that maybe you don't have all the information, and I'm concerned about that for you, really.
Yeah, it's a complex and very important one. When you're playing with 180 days, you're playing with fire there. That's for sure.
100%. Yeah.
So a question from Y Huri.
Hey Brian. Hey Sam. When is the new fee will be starting? Well, I mean, that's an excellent question. I think it's signed by law.
It is law. Basically,
how fast can they implement it is when it comes to money, they're very quick. I don't have details, but it's 24 hours straight.
So if I were to, I mean, because I was reading about this because basically we're members of ALL, the American Immigration Lawyers Association. I don't know if you read that, but there's a notice saying these things are in effect right now, but collection is a great big question mark on that. And the bottom line is, I expect the Department of State to be able to implement that pretty quickly because they already have an online portal for payments for your fees for non-immigrant visas. Expect to just, see that USCIS, even though we didn't talk about much about that, for their forms, I would say it can take them a while to issue a new edition of the form because they will typically have to issue they don't have to issue a new edition of the form. They just have to change the fees.
How about the effective immediately that we've been seeing recently with USCIS on changes? So I think those guys will move quickly.
I think that even if they had to change the forms, but I realize I'm saying this, but they don't have to change the forms to change the fees. But the interesting one is again, I've read the part. I went and read the part of the law because I wanted to know the exact amount because I was seeing conflicts as to I-94, how much the fee, whether it be $24 or $30. I know a big difference, but that's the sort of guy I am. And I just don't know how they're going to implement that. The only practical way seems to be to add a payment portal to the I-94 online website. It would be my guess there.
It's just to create an app that forces everybody to log in and enter their information and make a payment.
Here's your checkout page before you get your I-94.
You get a barcode when you're coming in, you got to show it.
Yeah.
On the phone that they are going to download anyways.
Yeah.
On the next time. All right, next one.
And let me see here. That's the same sort of question. So just sort of running in there was commenting a bit of clarification. I mentioned an erroneous denial by USCIS, and we did understand that. I mean,
do you expect that we will have additional deportation because of this new law?
Well,
is it going to have to be?
So yes, and we were talking about this expedited removal. One of the things that this administration has done has expanded expedited removal, which is removal without going through the immigration court, and basically quick by what it says. And the answer is maybe I'll sort of take a side to explain something about the nature of immigration detainment for a second. The immigration detainment system is not intended to be punitive. The penalty in U.S. immigration is you get deported from this country and you're not able to come back, right? And all this, detention facilities, for example, is basically so they can house people until they can achieve their goal of deportation if they think you're not there. Expedited removal seems more likely to be used
What is an expedited removal so people understand?
So it's basically a process by which they can skip the immigration court. For those who aren't aware,
They basically put you on a car and drop you at the border, or put you on a plane and ship you outside the country.
yes, basically it's removal with less scrutiny.
And obviously, they're shipping you to third countries now.
Yeah.
In a situation where you're claiming that you don't have a passport, or your country has a fear, you have a credible fear of persecution.
Cool. We'll send you to a country where you don't have that is willing to accept you. That sort of thing.
Yes. They may not feed you over there, but there's no credible fear of persecution.
Yeah.
And that's that. Okay, sounds good. So, anything else, Brian, you want to add to this?
Sam, you know me. I'm the sort of guy who loves to sum things up. So, for the average person in our audience in this sort of employment and family-based category, the most likely thing is you're going to see a couple of new fees there. If you're coming to the United States lawfully, it's a couple new fees that sort of, as I recall, fund other programs, essentially funding, this sort of thing. Great, fine. The more interesting thing is, expansion of, ICE's budget. Like you said, about 12 times over is what we calculated the budget increase. And again, they're not hiring those people for nothing. And there are a lot of folks that are undocumented in this country, and part of our job is that we often help those people out, for example. But the bottom line is the fundamental problem that the immigration system has is basically they hadn't the funds, the people, the manpower to execute all of the people, execute the removal of all the people who are eligible for removal, and they have made a change to that.
I tell you what, I mean, half of it, I agree with it. Half of it, sometimes it upsets me because of some inhumane approach to, talking about raising fees on asylum fee, for example. They're charging fee every year, the case is pending. Well, the case is pending every year because you
haven't processed it, government.
Yeah, so how can you charge a $100 fee for asylum seekers for waiting? But that's one thing. And then the other one is the unaccompanied children problem, where now they can inspect the body of anybody above 12 years old. 12-year-old child is a child, is too young to be subjected to this. But obviously we have a crisis of these human trafficking. Children are being sent over here for slave labor in the country. And they have to control us somehow.
We have to, we're a bunch of attorneys. We work within the law. We have to want the law to be enforced, but we want it to be, enforced properly. The bottom line is, if you ask the average person on the street, what should you do with somebody who has entered the United States, unlawfully or is eligible for removal? The answer is, the average person is, remove them. But, making sure that's done within compliance of our laws in a humane way is the fundamental challenge that we face.
And I'm not sure about increasing detention. $45 billion in detention increase. What's that going to do? More people in jail? How is that gonna fix the problem?
That's my question. The death sentence in immigration is that you get removed from this country and return to your home country. Why should you need more detention for that? Should you not just get people to where they're going, where they belong under the law faster?
But you and I sitting here don't know the practicality problem because we're lawyers. We see these things and sometimes we're like, wow, this is really harsh. We need to fix the border. We need to get on the business of helping this country grow as a country with legal immigration, and smart people need to be feel more welcome and more comfortable here and more safe and secure. These bills and the rhetoric and all the attitude is not helping get us to where we want it in that scenario, unfortunately. Well, thank you guys for listening to us. We'll talk to you Wednesday at 6 o'clock.